I was sorting the mail in my small rental apartment when my son David burst through the door. He didn't knock. His face was a mask of panic and entitlement. He saw the pay notification from the library on my small kitchen table. "How much is it?" he demanded. I flinched. "It's my paycheck, David. $2,200. He let out a breath, not of relief, but of calculation. "Good. I need you to set up a direct deposit. From now on, I want your paycheck sent to my account." I just stared at him. The air left my lungs. "What?" "I need it for the house," he snapped, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "Mom, you're living off us anyway, right? It's the least you can do." The floor didn't just drop out from under me, it vanished. Before we start, leave a comment telling us which city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. The house. The words echoed in the tiny, damp room I paid $1,100 a month for. His house. 5 years ago, when my husband passed, I sold our family home. The place David grew up. The place where I still heard my husband's laughter in the hallways. I took every penny of that sale, $150,000, and placed it in my son's hand. It was my entire retirement, everything I had. "This is for your dream house, David," I had told him, my hands shaking as I handed him the check. He and his new wife, Sarah, had hugged me. David looked me in the eye, tears welling. "We will take care of you, Mom. You will never have to worry about anything ever again." That promise dissolved, turning to acid in my stomach. I was 65 years old, and I was still working 40 hours a week at the county library, shelving books and cleaning study rooms. My $2,200 monthly check was the only thing standing between me and the street. Worry was the air I breathed. My visits to their house, the magnificent 5-bedroom colonial I had paid for, became shorter and shorter. Sarah's designer clothes and exotic vacations, all documented on social media, were a stark contrast to my reality. Last month, I had called David, my voice small, asking if he could possibly drive me to a cardiology appointment. He sighed, loud and annoyed. "Mom, do you know what gas costs? Just call a cab. We're busy, busy." They were always busy. Now, he stood in my kitchen, his hand tapping impatiently on my worn-out laminate countertop. This wasn't a request, it was a demand. He didn't see me, his mother. He saw an asset, an untapped resource. The words finally came out, cold and hoarse. "You want my entire salary?" "Don't be dramatic, Mom. It's just to help out. We're in a tight spot." A tight spot. I looked at his $300 sneakers, his new model smartphone, the keys to his luxury SUV dangling from his finger. The tears that threatened to come weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of pure, unadulterated rage. I had been a fool. This wasn't family. This was a commercial transaction. And I was the only one paying. I pulled my shoulders back. I looked up from the floor and met his gaze. My voice didn't tremble. "No." David blinked, as if he'd misheard me. "What did you say?" I said, "No, David. That is my money. The money I work for. To pay for my rent. I am not sending it to you." His face turned a dark, blotchy red. The entitlement vanished, replaced by a terrifying fury. "You selfish, old woman. After everything we do for you, you'd rather see your own son out on the street?" He stormed out, slamming the door so hard my good teacup, the last one from my wedding set, rattled on the shelf. The silence he left behind was deafening. I sank into a chair, my hands shaking. But the peace didn't last. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Sarah. I answered, and was met with a flood of hysterical sobs. "Clara, how could you?" she wailed. "David told me. We're going to lose the house. The bank is foreclosing." She was a good actress. The fake panic was perfectly pitched. "If we don't get that $2,200, we'll be homeless. Is that what you want? To make your own grandchildren homeless?" She was trying to pin their financial failure on my $2,200 salary. The audacity was breathtaking. I hung up the phone without a word. The next morning, there was a knock. Not a slam, but a hard, official rap. I opened it. David was there, and Sarah. And they had brought a man with them, a thin, weasel-faced man in a cheap, shiny suit, holding a briefcase. "Mom," David said, his voice cold and devoid of emotion. "This is Mr. Harris, our lawyer." They pushed past me into my living room. "Since you're clearly not well," David continued, "we're forced to do this for your own good." The weasel-faced man snapped open his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. He placed them on my table. "Mrs. Miller," he began, "your son is petitioning the court for emergency financial guardianship. He's claiming you are mentally incompetent." I felt my blood run cold. They were trying to have me declared insane, to steal my $2,200. "If you just sign here," the lawyer said, sliding a pen toward me, "we can avoid a messy public hearing." They thought they had me. They thought I was a weak, stupid old woman. They watched me, like vultures. I looked at the paper, at my son's cold eyes. I started to tremble, a real, terrifying panic setting in. I need my glasses," I stammered. "I need to think." David scoffed. "There's nothing to think about, Mom. Please," I whispered. Just 1 hour." They finally left, the lawyer smug. "1 hour, Mrs. Miller, or we file this." The moment the door closed, I grabbed my purse. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely dial. I called the only friend I had left in the world, Amelia. "Clara? What's wrong? You sound terrible." "Amelia," I choked out. "They're trying to have me declared incompetent. David. He wants my money." Amelia, a tough-as-nails realtor who had seen it all, cursed loudly. "That ungrateful." "Okay, Clara. Breathe. Do you still have the original paperwork from when you gave him that house money? All of it?" "Yes," I whispered. "It's in my safe deposit box." "Go get it," Amelia commanded. "Get it now. Meet me at my office in 30 minutes. There has to be something." 20 minutes later, I was in Amelia's bright, modern office. The thick stack of closing documents from 5 years ago felt like a brick in my lap. "I don't understand," I said, my voice shaking. I gave them the money." I signed. "You don't sign a $150,000 gift without a mountain of paper, honey," Amelia said, pulling out her reading glasses. She spread the documents across her desk, her finger flying across pages of legalese, settlement statement, title insurance, deed. Her finger stopped. She froze. She looked up at me, her eyes wide behind her glasses. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Clara, did you know about this?" She turned the document around and pointed to a single dense paragraph. "Your lawyer, the one who passed away, he was smarter than all of us." I leaned in, squinting. "What is it?" "It's a lien," Amelia said, her voice rising with excitement. "He didn't file it as a gift. He filed it as a debt. Clara, you are the official lien holder on that property for the full $150,000. I stared at the paper, the black and white letters blurring. "Lien holder? What does that mean?" Amelia smiled, a cold, sharp smile. "It means," she said, tapping the paper, "that you don't just own his paycheck. You own his entire house." "I own his house." The words hung in the air, heavier than the $150,000 check had been. "Amelia, I don't understand. My lawyer, he never told me." "He didn't have to," Amelia said, her voice grim. "He was protecting you. He knew, even back then, what your son was. He gave you a safety net, Clara. The question is, are you brave enough to use it?" I looked at the document. It was a failsafe, a bomb, sitting dormant for 5 years, and my son had just handed me the detonator. My first instinct was to cry with relief. But Amelia grabbed my shoulder. "No, not yet. They think they have you cornered. They're arrogant. We use that." "What do we do?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "You're going to call them back," Amelia said, her eyes flashing. "You are going to be the weak, terrified old woman they think you are. You're going to tell them you'll sign." You'll do anything they want. I held the phone, my heart hammering against my ribs. I dialed David's number. He answered on the first ring, his voice sharp. What? I took a shaky breath, summoning every ounce of fear I had felt that morning. David, it's me. I'll sign. I let a small sob escape. I don't want to go to court. I'll sign the papers. Please, just come and get it over with. The silence on the other end was thick with triumph. I could almost hear him smirking. I knew you'd see reason, Mom. Smart move. We'll be there in an hour. He hung up. He's coming, I said to Amelia. Good, she replied. Now, we set the stage. We had 45 minutes. Amelia went into my tiny bedroom, the one just off the living room. I'll leave the door cracked just a sliver. My phone will be recording everything. Clara, your job is to sit at that table and look defeated. I sat down at the kitchen table. I slumped my shoulders. I clasped my hands together to stop them from shaking. I was no longer an actress. I was just terrified. This was my son, my only child. And I was setting a trap for him. The knock came exactly 1 hour later. Hard, impatient. I opened the door. David, Sarah, and Mr. Harris, the weasel lawyer, brushed past me. Their arrogance filled my small apartment, sucking all the air out. Good, David said, not even looking at me. He was already surveying the room. Glad you decided to stop being difficult. Sarah was right behind him, her eyes scanning my furniture. This place is so drab, she whispered to David, loud enough for me to hear. The paint color is hideous. We'll have to change everything once we rent it out. They were already spending my money. My $2,200. Mr. Harris cleared his throat. All business. He spread the guardianship papers on the table. As we discussed, Mrs. Miller. Sign here, and initial here. It's all standard. This just gives your son control of your limited assets. He pushed the pen toward me. I looked at the pen. Then I looked at my son. He was checking his watch. Bored. David, I said, my voice quiet. He sighed. Annoyed. What now, Mom? Just sign it so we can go. All those years, I whispered. The memories flooding back. All the sacrifices. The $150,000 for your house? This is what it comes to? Oh, for God's sake, Sarah snapped, dropping her sweet facade. Are you going to bring that up again? That was a gift, you old woman. A gift? You don't get to hold it over our heads forever. David nodded, crossing his arms. She's right, it's just business. Now sign the damn paper. My hand, which had been trembling, suddenly went still. The tremor didn't just stop. It was annihilated by a wave of cold, hard clarity. I looked at the paper. I looked at Sarah's sneer. I looked at my son's cold, dead eyes. I pushed the pen back, slowly, deliberately. No. Mr. Harris's head snapped up. Excuse me? I said. No. You old fool. David started to scream, his face turning purple. You think you have a choice? We will drag you into court. We will tell everyone you've lost your mind. You'll be, I suggest. A new voice cut through the air. You stop talking. The bedroom door swung open. Amelia stood there, radiating a confidence that filled the room. Her phone was held up high, its red recording light glowing. In her other hand, she held a single, crisp document. And I strongly suggest, she said, striding toward the table, you look at this before you say another word. David stammered, his eyes darting from Amelia to me. Amelia? What? What is this? What are you doing here? The lawyer, Mr. Harris, puffed up his chest, trying to regain control. Ma'am, this is a private family matter. I must ask you to leave before I call the authorities. Amelia laughed, a sharp, barking sound that had no humor in it. Go ahead, call them. I'd love to show them this recording of you attempting to defraud a senior citizen. Now, shut up and read. She slapped the document onto the table, right on top of his incompetence petition. Mr. Harris's eyes scanned the paper. His smug, weasel-like face went from pink to a sickly pale white. Aline? he whispered, horrified. $150,000? This is a secured debt. David and Sarah were lost. What is that? Sarah snapped. What's a lien? What does that mean? David looked at me, his voice suddenly small. Mom? I stood up. My chair scraped against the linoleum, the only sound in the room. My voice was no longer trembling. It was cold steel. It means, David, that you don't own your house. It means, Amelia continued, taking over, that 5 years ago, your mother didn't gift you $150,000. She loaned it to you, on paper, legally. And this document, she tapped it, gives her the full legal right to demand repayment or foreclose on the property at any time. You haven't paid her a single cent, have you? Foreclose. That word hit Sarah like a physical blow. Her face crumpled. No, you're lying. That's not true. David, tell them they're lying. David looked desperately at his lawyer. Tell them. This is illegal. Mr. Harris was already packing his briefcase, snapping it shut. On the contrary, Mr. Miller, this document is perfectly executed. He looked at me, his voice now oily and full of false respect. My client's claims of mental confusion are clearly mistaken. I retract my petition. He backed toward the door. As for you, David, you're on your own. Do not contact me again. He fled the apartment, slamming the door behind him. The weasel was gone. It was just me, Amelia, and the two of them. The trap had closed. The full weight of the situation landed on David. He wasn't just not getting $2,200. He was losing everything. He stumbled, his knees buckling, and he grabbed the table for support. Mom, please. You wouldn't. It's my house. I live there. Was it your house, David? Or was it just my money all along? I walked around the table, standing in front of him. You tried to declare me insane to steal $2,200. You called me a selfish old woman. Sarah, I glanced at her. You were already redecorating my apartment in your head. You think a burden is going to keep paying for your luxury car? For your vacations? Sarah was the first to drop. She actually fell to her knees, her hands clasped. Please, Clara. We're sorry. We didn't mean it. It was just. We're stressed. We'll pay you back. We'll give you the $2,200. We'll give you everything. How? I asked, my voice void of all emotion. You can't even pay your own mortgage. You don't have $2,200. You don't even have a job, do you, David? David's head snapped up, his eyes wide with shock that I knew. He paled even further. I was going to tell you. It just happened. No, you weren't, I said. You were just going to steal my paycheck until I had nothing left. And then what? Discard me? Put me in a home? I looked at Amelia. Her face was grim, but she nodded. Amelia, please proceed with the foreclosure. I want them out. I want my money back. David let out a guttural scream. No, you can't. You're my mother. A mother, I said, walking to my bedroom door, who just learned that the most valuable thing she owns is her own name on a legal document. I stepped into the room and closed the door, leaving them to their ruin. I leaned against the thin bedroom door. My hands pressed over my ears, but I could still hear them. The screaming. It wasn't just David's rage anymore. It was Sarah, a high, keening wail of pure, animalistic panic. You old witch, you can't do this. It's our home. The children. You're throwing your grandchildren on the street. I heard Amelia's voice, calm and cold as a surgeon's scalpel. It was her home first. The one she sold to give you this one. A home you were about to lose anyway because you can't pay your bills. There was a rustle of paper. I suggest you leave. The eviction notice will be served tomorrow morning. Get your things. The screaming dissolved into desperate, ugly sobs. I heard a crash, a chair being thrown against the wall. I flinched. Then the front door slammed open, and I heard them stumbling out, their voices trailing down the hallway, still screaming curses at me. The door closed. Silence. The silence was a physical weight, heavier and more suffocating than their screams. It was done. A soft knock. "Clara?" "They're gone." I opened the door. Amelia was standing there, her face etched with concern. She was holding my small plastic frame reading glasses, which had been knocked to the floor in the chaos. I took them, but my hands were shaking too much to put them on. I wasn't crying. I was hollow. I just foreclosed on my only son, Amelia. "No," Amelia said, putting a firm hand on my arm. "You just took back your life from the people who were trying to steal it. You just stopped them from committing a crime against you. It is not love, Clara, to let someone destroy you. It's just destruction." She stayed for another hour, made me a cup of tea I didn't drink, and then left, promising to call her lawyer first thing. I was alone. That night was the longest of my life. I sat in the dark, staring at the phone. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw David's face, not the angry, entitled man, but the 10-year-old boy I used to read bedtime stories to. The boy who promised to slay dragons for me. Doubt crept in, a cold, sickening fog. Am I a monster? Am I really throwing my own son and grandchildren out on the street? He's lost his job. He's desperate. As if summoned by my thoughts, my phone, dark on the table, lit up. A call from David. I stared at it until it went to voicemail. It lit up again. Sarah. Voicemail. Again. David. Text. 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 My phone buzzed and vibrated for 10 solid minutes, a frantic electronic seizure of desperation. My hand trembled. I had to know. I pressed the voicemail button. David's voice filled the room, but it was a voice I hadn't heard in 20 years. It was broken, weeping. Mom, please. Please don't do this. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. I was scared. I didn't mean it. I'll get a job. I'll pay you back. I promise. Just don't take the house. Mom, please. Don't make me homeless. A sob tore through my chest. The guilt was overwhelming, a physical weight crushing my ribs. He was my son. My son. He was sorry. My hand moved toward the phone. I could call Amelia. I could tell her to stop. We could work this out. Then, another voicemail pinged. It was from Sarah. I almost deleted it. I didn't want to hear her fake tears again. But my finger hit play by accident. There were no tears. Her voice was a low, venomous whisper. "You think you've won, don't you, you old hag? You think you're so smart. You'll regret this. You will die alone in that disgusting tiny apartment. David hates you." He told me. He was just pretending to be sorry. We'll declare bankruptcy. You'll never see a dime of that $150,000. You've ruined us, and I hope you rot. The message ended. I sat in the dark, the phone glowing in my hand. And just like that, the guilt evaporated. It didn't just fade, it was burned away, leaving behind only cold, hard certainty. Sarah had just given me the final gift. The truth. I picked up the phone, but I didn't call David. I called Amelia. She answered, her voice sleepy. "Clara?" "Amelia," I said, my voice perfectly steady. "I'm sorry to wake you. Sarah just threatened to declare bankruptcy so I never see a dime. I want you to file the foreclosure today, and I want you to sell that house as fast as humanly possible. No more mercy." There was a moment of stunned silence on Amelia's end. Then, I heard her give a short, sharp laugh. "Bankruptcy. I knew it. She's as stupid as she is cruel. Clara, a secured lien gets paid first in a bankruptcy. They can't just discharge you. They've just confirmed that we need to move fast, before they can damage the property or try any other desperate moves. I'm calling my lawyer, Mark, right now. He'll file the lis pendens and the foreclosure suit by 9 a.m. They won't be able to touch the house." I hung up. I felt calm. The storm of guilt and anger from the night before had passed. In its place was a grim, cold resolve. I got up from the kitchen table. I made my coffee. I got dressed in my work clothes. I was still going to the library. My life didn't stop for them. I was at work, shelving books in the history section, when my phone vibrated. A text from Amelia. It's done. The notice is served. They have 30 days to vacate. My hands were steady as I put the phone away. An hour later, she sent a picture. A bright red, "For Sale by Owner" sign hammered into the perfect green lawn I had paid for. I looked around the quiet library, the smell of old paper and floor wax. This place, my $2,200 a month job, was my sanctuary. It was the only thing I had that was truly mine. And they had tried to take this too. The cold resolve hardened into something like granite. That evening, I came home to find him waiting for me. David. He was sitting on the steps of my apartment building, his head in his hands. He looked terrible. His eyes were red-rimmed, his clothes wrinkled from the day before. He wasn't the arrogant man. He was a desperate child. "Mom." He stood up as I approached, his voice hoarse. "Mom, please." "Sarah." She didn't mean what she said on the voicemail. She's scared. "I'm scared. We saw the sign. The for sale sign. Mom, it's humiliating. What will our neighbors think? What about the kids?" "I don't know, David," I said, fumbling for my keys, refusing to meet his eyes. "What do you think they'll think? Will they think you tried to have your 5-year-old mother declared incompetent to steal her paycheck?" His face hardened. The desperate child vanished, the old entitlement flooding back in. "So that's it? You're really going to do this? You're a monster, Mom. A monster." I finally got the key in the lock. "No, David. I'm just a lien holder. You're the one who taught me that this is just business. Now, please get out of my way." I went inside and locked the deadbolt. A week passed. A week of silence. I knew it couldn't last. Amelia called. "Okay, they're trying one last, stupid move. They got a new lawyer, a bottom feeder, Mark calls him. They filed an emergency motion to stay the foreclosure." I gripped the phone. "On what grounds?" "Get this," Amelia scoffed. "Emotional distress and elderly manipulation." "Manipulation?" I shrieked. "They're claiming I manipulated them?" "Don't worry. Mark is already filing our response. The hearing is tomorrow morning. We just need to show up." "Amelia," I said, a cold realization dawning on me. "I have something for Mark. It's that voicemail, the one from Sarah. The one where she threatened me and admitted David was faking his apology." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "Clara, you are brilliant. Send it to me. Now." The next morning, I was in a place I never thought I'd be. A courtroom. It wasn't the main foreclosure, just their desperate attempt to stop it. David and Sarah were there, sitting at the plaintiff's table, looking pale and trying to appear righteous. Their new lawyer was arguing passionately about how I, a vindictive old woman, was emotionally terrorizing this poor young family. The judge, a stern-looking woman, looked at me over her glasses, frowning. "Mrs. Miller, this is a very serious allegation of misconduct and manipulation." My lawyer, Mark, stood up. He was calm, polished. "Your Honor, we agree. The manipulation in this case is, indeed, shocking, which is why we have a piece of evidence, a voicemail from Miss Sarah Miller herself, left on my client's phone 2 nights ago, that will clarify exactly who is terrorizing whom. With your permission, we would like to play it for the court." Sarah's head snapped toward me, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. Sarah's lawyer, the bottom feeder, shot to his feet. "Objection, Your Honor. This is prejudicial. It's a private family conversation. It has no bearing." The judge cut him off with a single raised hand. Her eyes were fixed on him. "Counselor, you are the one who filed a motion claiming elderly manipulation and emotional terror. I'd say this voicemail has every bearing." "Overruled. Play it, Mr. Mark." Mark nodded to the bailiff, who patched his phone into the court's audio system. A loud click echoed in the silent room, and then, Her voice, Sarah's real voice. "You think you've won, don't you, you old hag? You think you're so smart. You'll regret this." The judge's eyebrows shot up over the rim of her glasses. The court reporter, who had been typing with bored indifference, stopped. Her head snapped up. "You will die alone in that disgusting, tiny apartment. David hates you. He told me. He was just pretending to be sorry." I watched David. His head sank, but I saw him turn, just slightly, to look at his wife. His eyes were wide with pure, unadulterated betrayal. She had just exposed his lie. We'll declare bankruptcy. You'll never see a dime of that $150,000. You've ruined us, and I hope you rot." The message ended. The click of the phone disconnecting was brutally loud. A heavy, toxic silence filled the courtroom. You could hear Sarah's ragged, panicked breathing. The judge slowly, deliberately, took off her glasses. She polished them on her robe, her eyes never leaving Sarah and David. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was pure ice. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller, in my 20 years on this bench, I have rarely seen such a disgusting and transparent display of malice. Not only are you admitting to a conspiracy to commit financial fraud by planning a bankruptcy specifically to evade a secured, legal debt, but you have come into this courtroom, attempting to use this court as a weapon to accuse the victim of your scheme of manipulation. The only manipulation I see here, ma'am, is from you." The judge put her glasses back on. "The motion to stay the foreclosure is denied, with prejudice. This is a gross abuse of the court system." She wasn't done. "And Mr. Harris," she said to their lawyer, who looked like he wanted to be swallowed by the floor, "you might want to advise your clients that I am referring this entire case, including your petition for guardianship and this voicemail to the district attorney's office, for potential charges of criminal elder abuse and financial secondential." "Fraut." Sarah let out a sound, a choked, strangled gasp, like someone being held underwater. David was frozen, his face the color of ash. I just sat there. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel anything. I just felt empty. But it was a clean, quiet kind of empty. The storm was over. Mark gathered his papers, his face impassive. "We're done here, Clara." We stood up. As we walked down the aisle to the exit, we had to pass their table. David wouldn't look at me. He just stared at the wood grain on the table. A broken man. But Sarah. Sarah looked up. Her face was a twisted mask of tears and pure, undiluted hatred. A hatred so profound, so venomous, it was almost a physical force. It was a promise. I pushed through the courtroom doors into the bright sunlight. Amelia was waiting on the steps, pacing. "So?" she asked, her voice tight. "It's done," I said, shielding my eyes. The motion was denied. The judge is referring them to the district attorney. Amelia nodded, but the relief on her face was brief. "Good." Her face turned grim. "But Clara, it's not over. A cornered rat is the most dangerous animal. They have 29 days left in that house. Be careful. Be very careful. A cornered rat is the most dangerous animal." Amelia's warning echoed in my head for the next 2 weeks. The silence was deafening. The for sale sign on their lawn was the only sign of life. No more desperate voicemails, no more angry texts, no more lawyers. The quiet was a living thing. A predator stalking me. "Amelia, I don't like this," I said into the phone. For the 3rd time that week, they're not just leaving, they're planning something. "I know," she said, her voice tight. "Just stay away from them, Clara. Don't engage. The sale is moving. We have an offer. Just let the clock run out." But they didn't let the clock run out. The call came while I was at the library. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello? Mom?" It was David. His voice was soft, timid. A voice I hadn't heard since he was a teenager. "Mom, I just want to apologize for everything. I know it's too late. I know you hate me." "I don't hate you, David," I said, my voice catching. It was the truth. I just wanted to see you. One last time, to say goodbye properly. Can Sarah and I take you to dinner? Just one last meal? For old time's sake. A goodbye dinner. My heart ached, but my mind screamed. Where? At the house, he stammered. Tomorrow night. I want to cook for you, like I used to, before. I hung up. A part of me, the stupid, hopeful mother part, wanted to believe him. It wanted to go. To see my son, not the monster. I called Amelia immediately. He invited me to dinner, at the house, to apologize. Amelia was silent for a full 10 seconds. When she spoke, her voice was flat. Clara, no. It's a trap. A textbook trap. You are not, under any circumstances, going into that house alone. But Amelia, what if? No, we will go. But not for dinner. I'm calling Mark. We are legally allowed to inspect the property with an appraiser before the sale. I'm scheduling an emergency appraisal. For tomorrow night. During your dinner. That's so hostile, I whispered. Clara, they are being referred to the DA for criminal elder abuse. Hostility is the only language they speak. You want to see your son? Fine. You'll see him, with me, and a 250-pound appraiser named Mr. Henderson. That's the deal. I agreed, my stomach churning with dread. The next day, 7 p.m., I felt like I was walking to my own execution. I pulled my old car up to the curb in front of the house I'd paid for. A black truck pulled in right behind me. Amelia got out of the passenger side, followed by the largest man I had ever seen. Mr. Henderson, the appraiser. He held a clipboard like a weapon. You ready? Amelia asked. I shook my head no. Good, she said. Let's go. I walked up the stone path. I knocked. The door swung open. David was standing there, his face stretched into a terrible false smile. Mom, you came. I'm so glad. His eyes moved past me. He saw Amelia. He saw Mr. Henderson. The smile didn't just falter. It died. It curdled into a snarl of pure panic. What? What is this? Who are they? Amelia stepped forward. All business. Mr. Miller, this is Mr. Henderson. He's here for the bank's appraisal. As the lien holder, your mother is required to be present. We're here to do a quick walkthrough. It won't take long. David's eyes were wide, darting from my face to Amelia's. He physically put his arm out, blocking the doorway. No, you can't. We're having a private dinner. A family dinner. You have to reschedule. It's not a good time. It's not a good time, he yelled again, his voice cracking. He was physically pushing against the doorframe, as if he could hold us back. And that's when I looked past him. Over his shoulder, into the living room. The dining table wasn't set for dinner. It was bare. And the living room, it was empty. The new leather sofas were gone. The $3,000 flat-screen TV was gone. The paintings from the wall were gone. They weren't just vacating, they were liquidating. And that's when I smelled it. Something sharp, something chemical. A smell that didn't belong. Gasoline. Gasoline. The word came out of my mouth. A flat, dead sound. My blood turned to ice. David. What is that smell? Amelia, who had been a step behind me, grabbed my arm and yanked me back. Clara, get off the porch. Henderson, she roared at the appraiser. Call 911. Right now. Code. Arson. David's face, which had been a mask of panic, dissolved into something feral. He was a trapped animal. You weren't supposed to be here, he screamed, his voice cracking. You weren't supposed to bring them. It was supposed to be you, just you, a nice, quiet dinner. The appraiser, Henderson, was already on the phone, his back to us. Yes, 123 Main Street. I'm a certified appraiser on site. I smell accelerant. The residents are hostile. It's a potential. Before he could finish, Sarah appeared from the hallway. She was wearing old clothes, her hair was a mess, and her face was streaked with sweat. She was holding a large, red gas can. "David, what's taking so long?" she snapped, not looking up. "I've got the last one. The basement is." She looked up. She saw me. She saw Amelia. She saw Henderson on the phone. The gas can slipped from her fingers, thudding onto the bare wooden floor, but not spilling. The dinner was a lie. The apology was a lie. They weren't just liquidating the assets. They were destroying the house. My $150,000. If we can't have it, Sarah shrieked, her voice shattering. "You can't have it. The insurance. It's still in our name. We'll get the insurance money, and you'll get nothing. You'll get ashes." David, seeing it was all over, lunged. Not at us, but at Sarah. He grabbed her arm. "You fool! You idiot! They're onto us! They know! Shut up!" "Get off me!" she screamed. She tried to grab the gas can on the floor. He tried to kick it away. They scrambled. A desperate, clumsy fight. "Stop it!" Amelia screamed, pulling me further down the steps. Henderson was yelling into the phone. "They're fighting! They're trying to ignite it! We need fire now!" In the struggle, David shoved Sarah hard. She stumbled backward, crashing against the hallway wall, right next to the kitchen entrance. Her wild eyes locked onto something. I knew what it was. The stove? The pilot light? "I'll do it!" she shrieked, a new, terrible resolve in her voice. She scrambled to her feet, ignoring David, and dove for the gas can. "I'll do it right now." She grabbed the handle. David lunged for her again. But he was standing in the doorway, right on the welcome mat. And I saw it. The dark, wet stain of gasoline that must have spilled earlier. It was all over the mat. It was all over his shoes. He was a human fuse. She was insane enough to light him. I didn't think. I just moved. I wasn't saving the house. I was saving my son. "David!" I screamed. I surged forward, past Amelia, and shoved him with all my strength. I hit him low, a tackle, sending him sprawling backward, off the porch and onto the grass, just as Sarah, who had flicked a lighter from her pocket, threw it. The lighter hit the gasoline-soaked welcome mat, where he had been standing. A whoosh! A wall of blue and orange flame erupted, consuming the entire doorway. The heat was so intense it singed my hair. It separated me and Amelia from the house, trapping Sarah inside the inferno. We heard the first, distant sirens, and then we heard Sarah's first, terrifying scream. The blast of heat threw me backward onto the grass, my ears ringing. The fire didn't just burn, it roared. It was a living, angry thing, devouring the doorway, the porch, the roof. Beside me, David was gasping, pulling at his hair. He stared at the inferno with dead, unseeing eyes. She lit it. She really lit it, he whispered, over and over. "Oh God, Sarah, she really lit it." Amelia and Henderson had retreated to the truck. She was on the phone, yelling. I saw her point at us, then at the house. Within seconds, the street was a kaleidoscope of flashing red and blue. 2 fire trucks, an ambulance, and 3 police cars screamed to a halt, blocking the road. Firefighters in heavy gear swarmed the lawn, uncoiling hoses, shouting commands. A paramedic ran to us. "Ma'am, are you hurt? Sir?" I shook my head, my throat too tight to speak. The paramedic shone a light in David's eyes. David didn't even blink. He just kept whispering. She lit it. A detective in a rumpled suit, his face all hard angles, strode over to me, Amelia and Henderson. "I'm Detective Rourke. Talk to me. What happened?" Amelia, miraculously composed, stepped forward. "Detective. I'm Amelia Vance, a realtor. This is my client, Mrs. Clara Miller. She is the legal lien holder of this property. We were here with a certified appraiser, Mr. Henderson, to conduct a lawful inspection as part of a foreclosure." Henderson chimed in, his voice deep and steady. "I'm the appraiser." As we approached, I smelled accelerant. The male resident, David Miller, became hostile and blocked the door. I called 911. He was covered in it, I whispered. My first words. The detective's head snapped to me. She's right, Amelia said. They were fighting. The female resident, Sarah Miller, had a gas can and a lighter. She threw it. She was screaming that if my client was foreclosing, she would get the insurance money and my client would get ashes. Rourke's face was granite. Insurance fraud. Arson. He looked at David, who was now being tended to by a second paramedic, still whispering. An insurance fraud scheme that went very, very wrong. He nodded to a uniformed officer. Get him on his feet. He's being detained. 2 officers pulled David up. He was a dead weight. They had to hold him. David Miller, you're being detained for questioning. They cuffed his hands behind his back. I watched them put my son, in handcuffs. The boy I had just tackled to save his life. His shoes, still damp with gasoline, were being bagged as evidence. I felt nothing. Just the vibrating thrum of the fire truck's engine through the soles of my feet. Just then, the screaming from inside. It had stopped a long time ago. A firefighter, his face black with soot, walked over to Detective Rourke. He pulled him aside, spoke a few words, his helmet in his hand. Rourke's jaw tightened. He nodded once, grimly. He looked at the inferno, then at David, who was being guided into the back of a police car. The detective walked back over to me. His voice was low. Mrs. Miller, I'm afraid the female resident. She didn't make it out. We found a body in the hallway. I nodded. I didn't cry. I already knew. The screaming had stopped. Detective Rourke looked at the police car taking David away. Your son. He's not just a person of interest in an arson case anymore. He paused, his words hanging in the thick black smoke. He's a person of interest in a homicide. The hours blurred. The smoke-filled air of the street was replaced by the sterile, fluorescent hum of a police interrogation room. It smelled like stale coffee and bleach. I sat at a cold metal table. Mark, my lawyer, sat beside me. Amelia was in the hallway. Detective Rourke slid a file across the table and sat down heavily. Mrs. Miller, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Your son is in the next room, and he's in a world of trouble. He opened the file. The ME's preliminary report is in. Sarah Miller. She didn't just die from smoke inhalation. She had severe blunt force trauma to the back of her head. The fire. It was set to cover up the fact that she was already dead, or at least unconscious. I stared at him. Dead? But they were fighting. She threw the lighter. That's one story, Rourke said, leaning in. Your son's story is different. He's saying she went crazy about the foreclosure. She started splashing the gas. She slipped and hit her head on the fireplace hearth, and he panicked. He says he set the fire to cover up her accidental death. Rourke rubbed his eyes. But his story has holes. The accelerant-sniffing dog tagged his shoes, not hers. Our appraiser says he was covered in it. And the lighter? We found it in his pocket when they processed him. Not hers. Frankly, Mrs. Miller, it looks like he killed her, and then set the fire to destroy the evidence. The only question is why. Right now, he's looking at first-degree murder. Unless you can give me something, a motive, because this just doesn't add up. I looked at Mark. He gave me a single, firm nod. This was it. My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. I pushed a folded set of papers across the table, the guardianship petition. He tried to have me declared incompetent 2 days ago. To steal my $2,200 paycheck. He called me a selfish old woman when I refused. Rourke stared at the papers. He tried to. Commit you? For $2,000? That's not all, Mark said, his voice cutting in. We also have a voicemail from Sarah, left on my client's phone right after they were in court. In it, she admits that David was pretending to be sorry. She also admits to a conspiracy to commit bankruptcy fraud. Rourke went completely still. He looked at the petition. He looked at Mark. He was pretending to be sorry? To lure her to the house? No, detective, I said, my voice barely a whisper. He wasn't pretending to be sorry, to lure Sarah. He was pretending to lure me. Rourke's eyes went wide. He connected the dots. his face hardening. The goodbye dinner, the apology. My God. He shot to his feet, pacing the small room. It wasn't an insurance scam. Not just that. He was going to kill you. He lured you to the house for one last meal. He and Sarah, they were going to kill you, make it look like an accident. But something went wrong, Rourke muttered, thinking aloud. You didn't come alone. You brought witnesses. The appraiser. The realtor. The whole plan fell apart. The fight. The fight wasn't about the fire. The fight was about you showing up with backup. He stopped pacing and stared at me, his eyes sharp with a new, terrifying understanding. Mrs. Miller, this isn't a homicide investigation about Sarah. This is an attempted homicide investigation about you. Rourke stood, his hands on his hips. We're done with you, Mrs. Miller. You're a victim. We're reinterrogating your son on a new, much more serious charge. Mark and Amelia hustled me out of the station. It was 5 a.m. The sky was a sick, grayish purple. The air was cold and thin. The world felt unreal, muffled, like I was moving through water. Amelia drove, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. You're not going back to your apartment, Clara. It's over. But it's not safe. She took me to a clean, anonymous hotel room on the other side of town. You stay here. Don't answer the door. Don't answer your phone. Mark and I will handle everything. I sat on the edge of the stiff hotel bed for hours. I didn't sleep. I just existed. At noon, the burner phone Amelia had given me rang. It was Rourke. He folded, like a cheap suit. The moment we told him we had the voicemail and the guardianship papers, he just crumbled. What? What was the plan? I whispered, my mouth dry. It was a murder plot, Clara. Against you. Rourke's voice was heavy with disgust. Sarah was in on it from the beginning. The guardianship petition was Plan A. When that failed in court, they went to Plan B. The goodbye dinner was the trap. David's confession. He was going to drug your wine, Mom. The way Rourke said Mom was like a curse. Then, help you write a suicide note. One where you repented for the emotional distress you caused them, and of course, left them everything. The $150,000 lien would be forgiven. Then, they were going to stage your suicide and set the fire to destroy the evidence. I closed my eyes, the room spinning. But I didn't come alone. I brought Amelia and Henderson. Exactly, Rourke said. The plan was off, but Sarah, she lost it. She saw the house, the money, and you, the meal ticket, all getting away. She panicked. She and David fought. He admits he hit her. He says she fell and hit her head on the fireplace. He swears that part was an accident. But Rourke's voice went flat. He also admits that after she was down, he saw his chance. He grabbed the lighter himself to finish the job and burn the evidence and her body. He thought he could still salvage the insurance money. I was silent. He was a monster. My son was a monster. His lawyer. He's already trying to spin it. Rourke sighed. He's painting David as a victim of Sarah's manipulation. He's going to plead manslaughter for her death, claiming it was an accident, and that the arson was a moment of panic. He'll get maybe 10 to 15 years. Unless we can prove premeditation for the violence. He'll claim he never intended to hurt Sarah, only you. And he'll say he never really intended to hurt you, just scare you. I knew what I had to do. The final piece was missing. His voice, his intent, detective. I want to see him. I want to talk to my son. There was a sharp silence on the line. Mrs. Miller. Clara, that's not a good idea. He's in a cell. He just confessed. He's scared. He'll talk to his mother. I want him to tell me why. I want to hear it. From his own mouth. I want him to tell me. Was it worth it? My $150,000. For all this? Rourke was quiet. He understood. A wire, Mrs. Miller? You want to wear a wire? It's a hell of a risk. Emotionally. He already tried to kill me, detective. What's left to risk? Set it up. I want to see what's left of my son. They strapped a cold, small mic inside my sweater. Just talk to him normally, Rourke said, his voice tired. Let him talk. We need him to admit the intent. Admit the plot against you was pre-planned. The county jail visiting room smelled of disinfectant and despair. A thick, scarred plexiglass window separated me from the other side. Then I saw him. They brought David in, wearing an oversized orange jumpsuit. He looked small, gray, and utterly broken. When he saw me through the glass, his face crumpled like a child's. He picked up the phone on his side. I picked up mine. Mom, A sobbed, dry, racking sobs. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the running tape. What are you sorry for, David? He blinked, confused. The apology was a reflex. For everything. For Sarah. Oh God, Sarah, I didn't mean it. It was an accident. You have to believe me. I told the police. He was clinging to his lawyer's story. He was trying to save himself. My lawyer said it's manslaughter. Just manslaughter. Is it? I kept my voice level. An accident. Like the dinner you planned for me was an accident? David went rigid. His breath hitched. I don't know what you're talking about. The drugs in my wine, David, I said flatly. The fake suicide note you were going to help me write. The fire you were going to set to cover it up. Was that an accident? Or was that Sarah's plan? I saw the shift. The brokenness gave way to raw panic. He knew I knew. It was her, he shouted, his palm slamming against the glass. It was all Sarah. She manipulated me. She said you'd never let us go. That you were holding that lien over our heads. She said it was the only way, she said. Or you said. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a lethal whisper. Because Sarah isn't here, David. It's just you and me. He was breaking, shattering. I just wanted it to stop. I lost my job. The bills, they just kept coming. And you had all that money. $150,000. Just sitting there. You could have helped us, he hissed, the real, bitter truth finally coming out. But you wouldn't. You wanted to keep it. You wanted to watch us fail. And that $150,000, I asked, the final question. Was it worth it, David? Was it worth Sarah's life? He stared at me, his eyes empty, hollow. I don't know. A long silence. I looked at my son, the monster I had created, the monster who had tried to kill me, and I felt nothing. No anger, no grief, just a cold, empty void. I placed the phone back on its cradle, breaking the connection. I stood up. David looked at me, panic rising as he saw me leave. Mom? Mom? Don't go. Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, say something. I stopped at the door. I didn't turn around. Thank you, David, I said to the glass. You just told me everything I needed to hear. I walked out, leaving him banging on the plexiglass, screaming my name. I walked out of the visiting block, shaking, but my mind was ice cold. I hadn't gone in there as a mother. I had gone in as a witness. Rourke met me in the hall. He didn't ask. I just nodded and slipped off the sweater, handing him the wire. A technician removed it, and Rourke plugged it into a laptop. Me, Mark, and Rourke stood in a small, sterile office, listening. We heard David's weeping. We heard his excuses. And then we heard the truth. You could have helped us, but you wouldn't. You wanted to keep it. You wanted to watch us fail. Mark, my lawyer, closed his eyes. My God, he whispered. That's it. That's the motive. Rourke just nodded, his face like granite. It's not just motive. It's confirmation of the conspiracy. He can't blame Sarah anymore. He just admitted to the entire plan, all on his own. Rourke shut off the recorder. Thank you, Mrs. Miller. You just did what we couldn't. You just ensured your son will never get out of prison. A few days passed in a gray, muffled fog. I stayed at the hotel, refusing to speak to anyone. I just stared at the wall. Then Mark called. "Clara, you need to come to my office. Amelia is here. We need to talk about the next steps." I went. Mark's office overlooked a park. Sun streamed in, but I felt no warmth. Mark sat behind his desk, his hands clasped. "News from the DA's office. They've heard the tape. Everything has changed." Amelia took my hand. "They've withdrawn the manslaughter plea offer," Mark said, his voice even. "As of now," he continued, "David is facing 2 separate indictments, murder 1 for the death of Sarah, and attempted murder 1 for you, Clara. Your tape proved indisputable premeditation. He has no way out. He is going to die in prison." I looked out the window. I had expected to feel triumphant, vindicated, a win, but there was nothing. Just a vast, crushing emptiness. Justice wasn't a shout of victory, it was a heavy silence. I had delivered my statement, not with a speech, but with the simple act of not erasing that recording, by choosing to live. I realized finally, it still wasn't over. I had my name back, my safety back, but there was one more thing. I turned back to Amelia. "The house," I said. Amelia sighed, the relief on her face draining away, replaced by weariness. "I talked to Mark about that. The house, or rather, the lot," Mark said, "is still technically yours, via the lien, but it's a total loss. The crime scene unit is done. It's a burnt-out shell." Amelia cut in. "And there's a major problem. The insurance company, they're refusing to pay." "Refusing?" I asked. But it was arson. It's insured for arson, right?" "Yes," Mark said. "It is. But the policy is in the name of David and Sarah Miller. And since the policyholders are the ones who intentionally set the fire, the policy is void. They won't pay a cent. The lot, the wreckage, the cleanup costs. It's all on you." I was stunned. After all this, after nearly being murdered, I still lost the $150,000. David, from a prison cell, had still managed to leave me, with ashes and debt. I lost $150,000. And now, I owed $30,000 more. That was the number on the paper a city official handed me. Amelia and I were standing in front of the charred wreckage of the house, the smell of ash and burnt plastic still thick in the air. The police tape was gone, replaced by a flimsy orange safety fence. "Ma'am," the city official said, his voice sympathetic but firm, "this is a public hazard. The structure is unstable. You have 30 days to demolish and clear this lot. If you don't, the city will, and will send you the bill." He pointed to the number at the bottom of the page, $30,000. I almost laughed. A hysterical, broken sound. Me, a 65-year-old librarian, on a $2,200 a month salary, now saddled with a $30,000 debt to clean up the ashes of a murder that I almost starred in. I went back to Mark's office, the paper crumpled in my hand. "He won," I said, throwing it on his desk. "After everything, David won." Mark and Amelia looked at me. "Clara, David is facing life in prison," Mark said gently. "That's not winning." "Isn't it?" I shot back, my voice shaking with rage. "He tried to kill me. He murdered his wife. And I'm the one paying for it. I've lost my entire retirement. Now I'm $30,000 in debt. He has ruined me from inside a jail cell. That is his final victory." Silence filled the office. Amelia looked furious. She wasn't looking at me, but at Mark. "No," Amelia said, her voice like steel. "That bastard will not win." "What about her? Sarah? She must have had something, right? A life insurance policy? Anything?" Mark frowned. I checked. David was the sole beneficiary, and even with him convicted. "But he murdered her." Amelia cut him off. "There has to be a law. You can't kill someone and then cash their policy." Mark froze. He looked at Amelia, then at me. "My God," he whispered. "You're right. The Slayer rule. It's basic common law. He cannot profit from his own crime. His involvement in her death, even if it was manslaughter, disqualifies him as a beneficiary. So, where does the money go? I asked, my heart starting a slow, heavy beat. It goes to her estate, Mark said, his eyes lighting up as he started typing, as if David had died before her. And who is the primary creditor of Sarah Miller's estate? He spun the monitor around to face me. Sarah had a $500,000 life insurance policy from her old job. $500,000. We're not suing David, Mark said, picking up the phone. We're suing Sarah's estate. We will file a civil suit for wrongful death, conspiracy to defraud, intentional destruction of property, and emotional distress. We are getting your entire $150,000 back, plus the $30,000 cleanup, plus interest, plus legal fees. We are taking it all. Amelia grabbed my hand. It wasn't shaking anymore. A month later, I was in a civil courtroom. This time, no David. Just a lawyer for Sarah's estate and the insurance company. They fought. They argued that since Sarah was also involved in the arson, the policy was void. But Mark was ready. He presented the recording. He presented Rourke's testimony. He proved Sarah was dead before the fire was officially set by David. She was the victim of a separate crime. The judge took 10 minutes. The verdict came down. Sarah Miller's estate was found fully liable. The insurance company was ordered to pay out the $500,000, and I was the first creditor in line. I was made whole. $150,000 in principal, $30,000 for demolition, every cent of legal fees. I walked out of the courtroom, a certified check on its way to my account. Amelia hugged me, hard. I had won. This time for real. I had my life back, and I had my money back. Justice, finally, was done. David's trial was quick. The recording I made in that jailhouse visiting room was the only evidence the jury needed. They found him guilty of murder 1 for the death of Sarah, and attempted murder for the plot against me. The judge, the same one who had watched Sarah's voicemail in that first hearing, sentenced him to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. I didn't attend the sentencing. I was already busy. The first check I wrote was for $30,000 to the demolition company. I stood on the sidewalk with Amelia and watched as the bulldozers tore down the last charred remnants of that house. It was the best money I ever spent. Amelia listed the empty lot. It sold in less than a week. The $150,000, plus the remaining money from Sarah's insurance settlement, was finally safe in my bank account. My next stop was the library. My boss, a kind man, was sad to see me go. "Clara, are you sure?" I smiled, hanging up my librarian cardigan for the last time. "I am. This $2,200 a month. I don't need it anymore. I'm retiring. For real this time." I gave notice at my old, cramped apartment. The one David had burst into. The one Sarah had called hideous. I packed the few things I owned that truly mattered. I am writing this from my new home. It's not a 5-bedroom mansion. It's a 2-bedroom condo on the 10th floor, with a wide balcony that faces the sunrise. It's bright, it's clean, and it is 100% mine. Amelia is here, sharing a pot of coffee with me. We are watching the city wake up below us. For 5 years, I thought $150,000 was the price I had to pay for my son's love. I was wrong. It was the cost of my silence. It was the fee I paid, month after month, to be ignored, disrespected, and finally, targeted. When I got that money back, I didn't just recover my retirement. I recovered my self-worth. David, from his prison cell, will never understand. He will spend the rest of his life thinking I chose money over him. But he's wrong. I didn't choose the money. I chose me. I take a sip of coffee. It's hot, and the sun is finally warm on my face. For the first time in my life, I am not a burden. I am not an ATM. I am not a selfish old woman. I'm just free. And that $150,000, it wasn't a gift. It wasn't a loan. It was my ransom. And I finally paid it. My goodness, Clara certainly went through it all, didn't she? Thank you so much for watching her story unfold. We'd truly appreciate hearing what you thought. Please let us know by rating it from 0 to 10 inches the comments below. Thanks again for being here with us, and God bless.